Hi, my name is Brad Williams from the Maricopa Association of Governments, also known as MAG. With me is Troy Siglitz, who is the consultant who did all of the heavy lifting in the US 60 corridor study between Loop 303 and SR 74. Some of you may not know who or what MAG is. MAG is made up of all the cities and towns in Maricopa County and northern Pinal County. Both counties, 3 tribal nations, and the Arizona Department of Transportation, or ADOT. Our governing board is made up of all the mayors, directors, and governors of our member agencies. We are tasked, among other things, with planning the freeways and highways in the valley to come up with a program of improvements to be implemented over time. We have been conducting a study of the US 60 Grand Avenue corridor for a little over a year now and are nearing completion. In a moment, this video will shift to a presentation recently given to the MAG Transportation Policy Committee summarizing our progress to date. Once that presentation is complete, we will return to give you a quick summary of what you will find at the various stations of the public open house. This study area is about 20 miles northwest of downtown Phoenix, and you'll see the study area is very wide. The reason it's so wide is there's not much road infrastructure in this area today. So if we're going to be looking at how US 60 functions in the future, we need to get an idea of how the street system is going to be evolving during that time. So it's a wide area. It also gives us the opportunity to look at access to Loop 303 through a larger area, which turned out to be an important factor in this study. The purpose for this and the objectives for this study are very simply stated. We want to identify where transportation improvements are needed and when they will be needed. A little bit of background. The stakeholders, the partners that we've been working with include the cities of Surprise and Peoria, Maricopa County Department of Transportation, Arizona Departments of Transportation and State Land, and we've also included the BNSF Railway. And in anticipation of a question that might be answered at the end of this, yes, we are assuming that the intermodal facility in this area is a part of our assumption to be sure that whatever recommendations come out of this study will be appropriate if in fact that project is developed. There is one thing, though, that we're not looking into, and that is whether or not any new roads crossing the railroad track should be elevated. We just feel this is not the proper venue to have that discussion. There are other venues underway now and will be in the future where there are opportunities for that conversation. As I mentioned, it's been almost a year and a half since this project started. We had an in-person open house in August of last year. We had a virtual public meeting in March of this year. And we came up with a number of possible solutions to the problems that they discovered. And we're here today to update you on this, but also let you know that we'll be coming back to the committees at MAG for acceptance of our final report sometime early next year. We have one final in-person open house coming up on November 13th. Talking about the open houses, the first one was in 2024 in August. It was well attended. We had great conversations with people who were there, and we gave them an opportunity to give us their ideas and priorities. And it was very clear. The first was there's a problem in traffic congestion that has to be dealt with right now. And then access and safety were equally important going forward as well. So let's look at the key findings that came from the analysis. The first key finding is that this area is growing very, very rapidly. Between 2020 and 2050, the population is going to grow by a factor of 6.5. And to help visualize what that looks like, we have these dot maps, and each gold dot that you see represents 15 people. So 100 dots is 1,500 people, 1,000 dots is 15,000 people. And between 2020 and 2030, you can see there's a lot of dots that occur just north of the 303. And in fact, that density is already looking like the density on the south side of the 303. And as time goes on, it gets more and more dense. So we certainly can see why we're beginning to see congestion even now. And to be able to visualize that congestion, we're looking at US 60 here from the top of the 303 interchange. And we're looking straight west, so we can see the northwest passage of US 60 going up to the intersection at 163rd Avenue, which is about 2/3 of a mile away. And here you can see that traffic is backing all the way up into the interchange and beyond. And the interesting thing is, if you look a little further away, you can see that traffic is also backing up even longer on 163rd Avenue and has even longer delays. So this is a significant issue that is existing at the moment. The question is, why is this so congested when all the area around it seems to be working so well? And to answer that question, we had to look more broadly at what was happening. What you see here on the right is we have 6 interchanges along the 303 going from Bell Road to Lone Mountain Road. Well, it's actually 5.5 interchanges, because the one in the middle at El Mirage only goes to the south, and you can't get to it from the north side, which is our study area. And what that means is we have a section of 9 miles long where there's only one interchange that people can use. So what happens if people need to get into the Central Valley or to use Loop 303? They really have only one choice. And that's the reason why this is such a problem today. What about in the future? What's going to happen in the future? Is this problem going to continue? Well, what we have here, we're looking at 2050, when there may be more interchanges. You see the 3 green interchanges on the left. They're on the west side. By 2050, they'll be serving nearly 300,000 vehicles a day coming from this study area to the 303. The 5 on the east side will carry about just a little over 150,000. So what this shows us that the interchanges on the west are roughly double the amount of, carry about roughly double. And in fact, the interchange at Grand Avenue and the 303 is over 160,000 people, vehicles, which is more than all of the east side interchanges will serve added together. So these west interchanges are a much bigger challenge for us to solve. The next finding that we did is we took a look at the general plan road system for the entire area and asked the question, what if all of these general plan roads were built to their full width? So a typical major arterial would be 3 lanes in each direction with a left turn lane in the middle. If that was provided in the entire general plan, how would it function? And so we took a look at that for the year 2050, put it in our model, and we learned a number of things. The first is that a lot of these roads would be underutilized. What you're seeing in green are the roads that don't require the full width that's in the general plan. Maybe they only need 2 lanes in each direction. Maybe they only need 1. Some of these roads won't even be needed by the year 2050. They'll be needed someday, but we need to figure out what's needed within the time frame that we're looking into. There are a number of streets that do require full general plan width, which are the ones you see here in blue. Those seem to be mostly located over in the east side in the Peoria area. And then, of course, we do have some that require even more than what is planned in the general plans. And the 2 roads that jump out at us is, first of all, US 60, Grand Avenue, and also Bell Road. Now, US 60, there are no plans currently to widen or improve Grand Avenue at this time. So any improvement would show up as a red line on this map. And we know near the 303, those improvements are significant. But it's interesting to see that Bell Road is also growing very rapidly. In fact, you'll see that the red line is darker way down at the bottom. And the reason for that is by 2050, Bell Road will be carrying more traffic than any arterial street in the valley carries today. and will require more lanes than any arterial has in the valley today. So that's, and plus, that's an arterial street. It's not eligible for funding under Prop 479 and our freeway life cycle program. So other ways have to be looked into to find out how to deal with this problem. So basically what this tells us is we need to be very strategic in how we plan and finance improvements that are going on. We want to only provide those improvements that are really necessary, but then deliver them in time so that we don't have congestion problems arriving over time. And that takes us back to the purpose of this study, which again is very simply stated. Where are those transportations needed and when are they needed? So it's not saying, will they be financed? It's just saying, where do we need to make improvements in order to avoid future congestion problems? At this point in our analysis, we had our second public meeting, and this was attended by about 250 people. This was a virtual meeting, and they took the opportunity to respond. We gave them dozens of different scenarios of things we might do to solve these problems or the congestion that might occur in the future. And on an average basis, each person who responded actually said something to us 22 times on various questions, opportunities for comment or agreement or disagreement. So they took this seriously. They spent a lot of time and put a lot of effort into giving us their thoughts. And very, very high level summary of those were we need to fix access to the 303 and we need to improve access to US 60. So from that, we were able to start forming recommendations. I'm going to go through a few of those now in fairly general terms. The first one is we have to fix the problem at US 60 and the 303. Well, that's a complicated problem that needs a lot of work. And 3 steps are in this process. It's already begun. The first step is to implement small improvements where there's an opportunity to do that. That's underway. The second step is to build a new interchange close to Grand Avenue so that there's an alternative. People will have another route to take as things continue to get worse over time. And once those 2 things are done, then we can seriously look at what needs to happen on US 60 in this area to solve it. So I'll look at those briefly with you one at a time. Implementing small improvements. This has been going on for about a year. We have maybe 6 or 8 months more before they're all completed. And you can see with the yellow and the blue lines, the number of additional lanes have been added to the various intersections in this area. The next step is to build a new interchange. ADOT has done a project assessment and it's determined the best place to put this interchange is going to be connecting with 155th Avenue. And then you can see here in the map, you can see in the left-hand corner, you can see where the existing Grand Avenue interchange is. This is about a mile to the northeast of that point. And this is, I'm sure, a very strange-looking interchange. It's not like anything else we have here. There are 2 reasons for that. The first reason is that it can't go to the south. All of the land south of this location is fully built out and occupied. So this can only go to the north. But on the north side, there are a series of high-power electric transmission lines parallel to and very close to the freeway. So the only way to get through there is to get back on the ground and go underneath. So we have to take all the ramps, bring them together on the ground at a signalized intersection right close to the freeway. And it ends up looking like this. Now, with these 2 things done, we'll be able to make major upgrades. And there are 2 locations. The green circles show the one on the bottom is the interchange of US 60 and Loop 303. The one above that is the intersection of 163rd Avenue and US 60. Now, at the interchange, we're proposing an elevated intersection on top of the freeway at this point. And that will help separate traffic, heavy movements of traffic, some up above and some down below. At the 163rd Avenue intersection, it's the same thing. We want an elevated intersection there. So again, we can separate traffic. And by doing that, you'll also see on the bottom right here that we're elevated over the railroad tracks at the same time. So there won't be any conflict between trains and cars. These two improvements, in order to separate traffic the way is needed, they have to be fully integrated, which means they have to be designed together and implemented together. And a few examples of how we're able to separate traffic. If you're traveling, which would be southeast bound on US 60, and you want to go to southbound 303, you can get off on a separate ramp. It stays on the ground and doesn't have any signals. You go all the way without stopping right onto the 303. And if you're coming from southbound 163rd Avenue, you have only one intersection, but remember that's elevated above Grand Avenue, so there's no Grand Avenue traffic on it. And then take it all the way through. And if you're coming the other way, if you're coming up the 303 or on westbound Grand Avenue, you stop and have an intersection just for those two movements that are going to 163rd Avenue, and they continue without stopping. So by separating traffic this way, we're able to manage the traffic and have everything moving. So the status on all of this is the small improvements are nearly finished. Building the 155th Avenue, we already have advertised for design. Design will begin early next year, and it's programmed for construction in 2028. Building the major upgrades will also start in design in 2026. They're programmed for construction in phase 2 of Prop 479. The next area is access to other Loop 303 interchanges, and we've seen already from the map with the red lines where those improvements need to be made. Now, for access to Grand Avenue, we really, because things are changing so much, we need to put a plan together, an access management plan, and that begins by identifying opportunities to cross Grand Avenue with arterial streets. And we found 8 locations where that can happen. All of these aren't going to be needed by 2050 probably, but they need to be protected. These need to be available when they're needed. This is an 18-mile corridor. We have 8. That's an average of more than 2 miles between all of these junctions. They need to be protected, and plans should be made to use them. I told you earlier that with the dot, I was going to come back to the dot map that showed where development is, and that's what we're looking at here. So you can see the box on the left is now seen in the dot map. You can see Loop 303 goes through the middle, and you can compare in 2050 what the density of development is north of the 303 to the density south of 303. Now what I want to do is compare a new box, what that looks like on the ground today, and it looks like this, okay? So what you see in the blue box on the right, this is what Google Earth tells us it looks like. So this is a level of development. This will be equal to or greater than that north of the 303. So what do we expect with this level of density? There will be frequent signalized intersections. There will be unsignalized driveways to restaurants and medical facilities and businesses, and there will be reduced speed limits in that area. On the north side, it's a much different issue, and it's primarily a safety issue. All the red dots that you see here are locations where there exists today an unsignalized access onto US 60. And with the amount of traffic that's growing, every single one of these dots is going to need some safety attention by the year 2050, whether that's a signal or some other kind of measure to make it safer. It's just the number of cars and the number of heavy trucks, which is growing very rapidly. It's going to make it essential that these have some kind of safety measure. Otherwise, it's going to become very unsafe just to get on and off of Grand Avenue. So really, this access management plan is a focus on how to make it safer over time. In summary, remember there were those 3 objectives, 3 priorities. The first one was fixing the existing problem, improving access, and improving safety. So we have measures here that address all of those, including the access management plan which is primarily a safety plan. We are back, and now I would like to ask Troy to share some additional information.
As discussed previously, there are substantial improvements funded for construction in this area, and we thought it would be helpful to show them on one map to demonstrate the extent of the improvements planned for this area over the next 5 to 10 years. On the east side of the study area, extensions of El Mirage Road and Jomax Road will provide better access to Loop 303. The extension of Jomax Road will add east-west connectivity for people to travel between Surprise and Peoria on the local street system. Additional improvements are planned in Peoria on Vistancia Boulevard, Happy Valley Road, and Westward Skies Drive. ADOT is planning a new traffic interchange on Loop 303 at 155th Avenue. This new interchange is approximately 1 mile from Grand Avenue and will provide an additional connection to access Loop 303. Design is set to begin soon after the first of the year, with construction to begin in late 2027 or early 2028. Once the 155th Avenue and Loop 303 interchange is open to traffic, construction of the major upgrades at US 60 and 163rd Avenue and US 60 and Loop 303 areas would follow. Construction for these major improvements is anticipated in the second phase of projects funded through Proposition 479, which covers the years 2031 through 2035. The total estimated construction cost for all of these improvements exceeds $700 million. While this is a tremendous amount of infrastructure in a short time, we must also remember how rapidly the area is growing. In 5 years, there will be more than 107,000 people living in the study area. This grows to 185,000 people by 2040 and over 240,000 by 2050. Needless to say, growth in traffic demand will continue and congestion will remain until the major upgrades are opened to traffic. A very large portion of the general plan road network will need to be implemented by the year 2050 due to this growth. The map you are looking at now is a moving illustration of how the road network is expected to change between now and 2050. The blue lines represent existing roads that will need to be widened. The red lines represent roads that currently do not exist and will need to be built. The thinner solid gray lines represent existing roads that can continue with their current number of lanes through 2050. Most of the future street connections will be built by the developers as they build in the area and bring more traffic demand. This will be the primary source of funding for the arterial street improvements, but there will likely be gaps that will need to be filled by the local agencies. Grand Avenue will also need to be widened over time as the population continues to grow. As mentioned earlier, significant improvements along Grand Avenue between 163rd Avenue and Loop 303 are programmed to be built with Proposition 479 funding. However, there are no funds programmed to widen Grand Avenue beyond those improvements. This is a concern that will require local jurisdictions, MAG, ADOT, and the state legislature to fund the widening of US 60, as well as some of the arterial streets. For those of you who live in the Whitman area, we have a recommendation that we hope you will like. The study recommendations include extending Dove Valley Road east of US 60. This would allow traffic to cross US 60 from one side to the other. With that improvement, we recommend significant changes to Center Street. These include elevating Center Street over US 60 and then moving the existing traffic signal from Center Street over to Dove Valley Road. This will allow Center Street to operate as a small arterial serving local traffic and help to preserve the rural nature of the community. This change requires the paving and extension of the small streets just west of Crozier Road, such as Myers Street, which you can see at the bottom of the figure, and Occupado Street a bit further north.
Thank you, Troy. We've shared a lot of information with you. We encourage you to visit all of the stations here at the Public Open House and speak to our study representatives. We also encourage you to submit your comments in writing here at the open house or visit our website at www.azmag.gov/US60 corridor study. For those of you unable to attend the open house, we encourage you to submit your comments on the website. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to continued partnership with the local agencies, ADOT, and the public in this area as this area continues to evolve over time.